So let me ask you guys, how many of you are familiar with design thinking or have heard of it? Just raise your hands high so I can see, please. Okay, a mixed bag. All right. Well, the thing to think about with design thinking is always thinking about being in the customer's shoes or the client's shoes. And the client journey is really one mechanism to do that. And I try not to use a lot of jargon. I don't want to sort of get lost in the nuance of language. So when I talk about the client journey, I've learned to break it down to this question. And that is really, how easy are you to do business with? So yes, you may be lawyers, but you're also part of a business, right? And as a business, whether a law firm or a donut shop, we can make it extremely painful for our customers, or we can make it a pleasurable experience, dare I say. Yes, even with lawyers. So the whole goal of the client journey is to really think about how the client experiences your services, right? And then figure out a way to strengthen them, make it more positive, and sort of lessen the negative. But before I go into that, let's talk about design thinking really quick. I'm not going to give you some academic explanation for what it is. Design thinking is one more tool, mindset, and methodology that you can use to create new services, to access a new customer market segment, to, dare I say, innovate. There's lots of different business methodologies out there. Design just happens to be one that I've practiced for about 15 years or so. It's sort of, creating quite a lot of buzz right now in the legal markets. It's good or bad. I'm excited. It was lonely about 10 years ago when I felt like I was the only quote-unquote legal designer out there. Now everyone's doing it, which is great. But I also worry because design's not a wonder drug. It's not a panacea. You can't just go throw some stickies on a whiteboard and doodle and brainstorm your butt off, and all of a sudden, miraculously, you've got new customer value and a new business. It takes discipline like anything else. The whole ethos of it, though, is to access the customer mind using something called empathy, right? Really stand in the customer's shoes. We say that a lot, but not a lot of us actually go through the pain of trying to figure out what the customer or client or consumer actually feels when they interact with us. And note, I use client and customer and consumer interchangeably. So I apologize in advance. They kind of mean the same thing to me. And I think we get too caught up on, well, I'm a lawyer, I have client, I don't have a customer. In some cases you do, sometimes you have both. But back to design thinking. It's not just me that says it's valuable. So the Design Management Institute, which is an academic and professional institution, went through the S&P 500 several years ago, and they scored all the companies on sort of certain metrics to figure out if they were truly design-driven companies. Do they hire designers? If so, what kind? Do they talk about design thinking? Does the CEO or executive leadership talk about design? And they scored these companies. And then they looked at how they performed across all the other companies. And what this shows is that they consistently outperform. If you are design-driven, the odds that you will outperform your competitors and other companies are greatly increased. And this has been picked up by business schools. Every top US business school has some sort of design curriculum, club, initiative going on campus right now that the students can experience. And you can see some of the leading names up there right now. And this is extended into professional service firms. Now, my firm that I'm with, the Seyfarth Shaw, which is a large law firm, 10 years ago, they began this pioneering into Lean Six Sigma, which is another business methodology that's focused on process and removing waste. And since I've joined the firm roughly 2.5 years ago, we've been experimenting with mixing lean and design together in new ways to really sort of create new service models and involve our clients in new and fascinating ways. It's been quite an experiment. But other large law firms, these are not all of them, but these have sort of publicly committed to incorporating design and design thinking into what they're doing. And these law schools up here, again, not every law school. I didn't want to just give you logo vomit on the slide, but you get a sense for the realness of design starting to come into legal. And on the bottom, I've got McKinsey, Deloitte, Accenture, I could have put PwC. Now, these consulting companies are actually buying design agencies. Okay, there's a whole other chart that charts all the M&A activity that these companies are actually buying design thinking practitioners and companies now. They're doing it for two reasons. One, they're doing it to better design for their clients, right? To create a better experience for their clients and help their clients innovate. They're also doing it internally to make them stronger competitors. And this is sort of ramping up over time. So the whole focus on design has become real in today's global economy. Okay, so, but why? Why? Okay, great, Josh, you're killing us with this design stuff. It's because experience matters, right? We are, as consumers, being conditioned to value an experience over the underlying product or service. I flew on Delta yesterday. I didn't get one survey, I got two surveys. I got a survey from Delta, and I got a survey from the airport when I boarded the plane, all asking me how my experience was, right? They know that just getting on a plane that's table stakes. How did they make me feel? How easy were they to do business with that day? The rise of Angie's List and Yelp and Avo and all these other sort of marketplaces that try to capture people's experience with the underlying product or service. It's because we as consumers are really ushering in a new era of the economy. We're moving from a service-based economy to an experience-based economy. And we could probably thank these guys for it, right? So is that just a cup of coffee? No. If it was, I mean, I can't tell how many people have Starbucks. I know there's one here in the hotel. I mean, they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere, right? Do you go there just to order a cup of coffee? You may think you do. I don't have my phone on me. I left it back there. But how many of you have the Starbucks app on your phone? Right. So you can interact with Starbucks right here, right now. You are on a Starbucks client journey as you sit here right now. They could be notifying you that your stars are going to expire. You better use that reward. The song of the week has just been posted. They'll notify you of that. You can pre-order so that when go to Starbucks, your coffee's waiting for you. And when you're there and you do order, you just don't order a small, medium, or large. You order a tall, a venti. And it's not a coffee, it's a blonde. It's dark. Or it's a macchiato, and you add ice first with 2 pumps of this and all that. It's an experience, and then they design it and build it in front of you. It's an amazing thing. They used to just pour you a cup of coffee, slap a lid on it, and there you go. But because they craft this experience, and it's consistent and repeatable, we're okay with the $4.50 for a cup of coffee. A commodity, something that coffee bean costs 1 to 2 cents, right, is transformed into a $5 product because we as consumers want that experience. We crave it. It's almost addictive. Okay, so how do you design an experience? How do you, as legal professionals, really access this experience economy, right? Well, you got to think about who's the client. The client is just not some demographic. We have different client segments, different types of clients based on the problems they have, based on who they are and what they're trying to achieve. And you got to really think about, where does your service beyond your work product shine, and where does it just suck? Is your billing horrible, right? Is your communications poor? Maybe. Maybe they're exceptional. Well, how do you figure all these things out? Well, there's lots of tools, and I would have loved to do workshops. I do workshops on this all the time. We have personas, which is another way, another lens of looking at your customer and client. We have client journey maps, where you basically think about a start and an end of the entire customer journey. It could be from the moment you meet somebody in the lobby out here who might be a future customer. It could be, after a pitch for a client, all the way through to you doing work product for them, and ultimately to a referral or something like that. And you don't think about it just in terms of the lawyer doing the job. What is your business professionals doing, right? What are your paralegals doing? How does your data, how does your communications, how does your network interact with the business of your client? It could be an individual, it could be a business. And you map that out for the client journey map, and you can put smiley faces, frown faces, you can score it, but it's a way to really access that question of how easy are you to do business with. You got service blueprints, which breaks down the workflow that you're doing, okay? If you're putting together a brief, or say you're representing an insurance company and an insurance defense claim, what is the workflow? Then you sort of map the journey on top of that. And there's a number of different tools. For today, because I only have 19 minutes left with you, I chose to talk about something called the job to be done. So let's talk about milkshakes, okay? So milkshakes, what the hell is he talking about? Well, did you know that milkshakes actually have a job to be done? It's amazing. Who would think? When I think of a milkshake, I want a tasty, sweet, frosty beverage, right? Well, a fast food company hired Clay Christensen's agency before Clay wrote The Innovator's Dilemma and became a Harvard Business School professor. And they hired this agency because they couldn't figure out how to increase sales of different food products, milkshakes being one. It's a very high margin, high profit food item. So they wanted to sell more. So Clay's team went in there and they noticed one thing off the bat. They realized that there was a spike in milkshake sales before 9:30 in the morning. Okay? It's like, what the heck? Who is having a milkshake at 7:30? Okay? So they had to figure this out. So they had a team sit there in the fast food restaurant and just watch as people came in. And it was people dressed like me, kind of in suits, in business attire, and they'd rush in, they'd order a milkshake, that's it. They'd get back out, they'd get in their cars, and they'd go along their merry way. And they're like, what the heck are these people doing? They can't all have sweet tooths at this hour in the morning. So they started asking them, what exactly are you buying this milkshake for? You know what they didn't hear? They didn't hear, I want a tasty treat. They didn't hear, I wanted something like ice cream. What they heard was, I've got a long, boring commute, and I need something to entertain me. What they heard was, I don't have time for breakfast, and there's no place for me to eat along the way, and I don't want to be hungry before lunch, so I'm having a milkshake. So they started to realize that something else was going on here with these milkshakes. And they would ask them, well, why wouldn't you just order, we sell breakfast sandwiches right here. Why wouldn't you order a breakfast sandwich? Want to know why? How many of you guys have tried to unwrap a hamburger or a breakfast sandwich while driving? Okay, if you get it open, then you got to take a bite without like getting the plastic in your teeth, as you got it down, and then it might drip some grease on you as you're going to work or crumbs. They didn't want that, right? They said, okay, well, why wouldn't you bring a protein bar with you from home or anything like that? And the response they got was, well, it doesn't fulfill me until lunch. I'd have to eat 3 of those, and then I would feel like a glutton, having 2 or 3 protein bars on the way into work. So the milkshake started to reveal itself as having a job. And in Clay's terms, Clay Christensen's terms, these people were hiring the milkshake to do a job, and that's the job to be done. So this is a quick hack. You create a job statement. Right? I'm going to walk you through this really quickly with the milkshakes. You start to break this down. And you can see for this instance, okay, we have our product or service, a milkshake, helps morning commuters. That's the customer. Now notice I didn't say all people, because we're starting to segmentize our customers based upon the problem we solve and some unique characteristics. So it's morning commuters only we're focused on. All right, well, what do they want? They want to start work without being hungry. Okay, makes sense. Well, how else are we going to do this for them? We're going to reduce distractions while driving and avoiding stains. Okay, that's what the milkshake does here. And it's fast and easy, and we'll keep them full until lunch. So that's one of the jobs. And the restaurant was blown away by this. They're like, I cannot believe you've discovered this. And they said, well, we're not done. Milkshake has a second job. Okay, same thing, morning commuters. It's there to fight boredom. So the commuters don't waste time because it's easy to order and it's something fun and interesting. So the restaurant said, okay, well, what do we do with this information? So what would a fast food restaurant do with this information? It's not intuitive. They actually narrowed the straws in the morning time. Why would they narrow the straws? Make it last longer? Take longer. Now that would drive me nuts. A narrow straw in my milkshake? I want a damn milkshake. I want to guzzle it down. But they actually made the straws narrower, and nobody complained. They loved it because it lasted longer. It was more interesting for them. Before this, they were adding crunched up Heath bars and Snicker bars and all that. And these people hated it because it would get stuck in the straw. Well, if you narrow the straw, it's certainly going to be more of a problem. So they started adding liquid flavoring to these to come up instead of, substance. And the morning commuters, the flavors got to be more complex and interesting. They also changed the structure of the cup. They made it more narrow and taller. They did that so it's easier to grasp and hang on to. And for most cup holders, it actually sat deeper inside the cup holder, inside their car. So the spill factor was limited in that case. So the restaurant started understanding, oh my gosh, we've been looking at the milkshake as though it's a milkshake. Who knew? Who knew the milkshake was more, that it actually was doing a job? And once they started to realize the milkshake had a job, that these morning commuters were hiring it as entertainment, were hiring it as a fulfilling meal, which, by the way, a lot of these commuters referenced eating the milkshake, not drinking it, which I thought was very interesting. You start to realize, oh my gosh, we can actually change our product and the experience of our product in a way that materially and positively impacts our customer. It's why this is not just something to drink. Notice how Starbucks, have you ever seen an advertisement for Starbucks? They don't have to. Their brand and experience is so powerful. Their ubiquitous cup, it's like the iPhone white earbuds. That's the subtle advertisement. That's the subtle sort of brand reinforcement. Okay, but lawyers are not milkshakes, right? I hear this all the time. Josh, but we're legal services, we're lawyers, this sounds great, I don't own a milkshake company, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? And should I even try? And if I do, will it make a difference? Well, let me tell you a story. So before I joined Big Law, as I mentioned, I did business design for a decade or so. And I was hired by small law firms, medium-sized law firms, large technology companies, small startups, some of the biggest legal publishers, all to design new revenue models and service models and business models. Another part of my job was actually reacquiring clients that lawyers lost. So I was hired by a 10-person law firm. They lost a large insurance company as a client. It represented 40% of their revenue. They were in panic mode. Okay, the law firm was going to fail. 40% of your revenue gone, you're going to fail, or you're going to become a solo pretty quickly. So they hired me to come in and try to get this client back for them. And I realized it's actually worse. 57% of their revenue came from insurance company clients because they had more than one. And all of them were at risk. So we had to work fast. And I did a bunch of work for them that obviously I can't go into here. But one of the things is I mapped the job to be done. And I never used that language with this client. I try never to use design-centric language with lawyers because the cynicism and just the skepticism and all that stuff just goes off, right? So I just said, let's fix the problem. Let's try to fix the problem. And what we did is we started saying, okay, let's look at this insurance company. And we looked at our equivalent of morning commuters. Okay, how could we segment the insurance company client? Because the law firm was just saying, it's one client. And I had to say, no, you actually have many different customers and users inside the insurance company. You have claims adjusters, you have claims counsel, you have in-house counsel, you have procurement. Oh, procurement. So we chose procurement because they're the ones who kicked my client out of the party, right? We mapped the job to be done and all that for all of these, but for this purpose, I wanted to focus on procurement. And so we looked at procurement, and we realized that how the law firm was being viewed when I looked at a job statement was like this. Our law firm helps people who want to hire a lawyer by offering the best lawyers and avoiding the worst lawyers. I would say that's all too common out there. I hear that and see that a lot, right? No differentiator, no client journey, it's all me, right? And we realized, and I realized, oh my gosh, I had an epiphany. I started looking at this law firm, and it was designed as a general practice law firm. And 57% of the revenue directly came from insurance defense. Another large portion came from related work, and their general practice work was less than 10%. Trusts and estates and all this kind of stuff. But when you looked at them, when you interacted with them as a business, it looked like they were a general practice firm. And so I challenged them and said, okay, if the majority of your revenue comes from a certain type of client, why wouldn't we design your business to optimize that type of client's experience all the way through your law firm from start to finish? So we did a bunch of work. We redesigned their workflow. We redesigned their billing. We redesigned how they capture and maintain their data on this stuff. There was so much knowledge locked in the heads of the lawyers and paralegals around types of jurisdictions and types of matters. They'd been doing work for over 10 years with this client. I said, well, why don't we bucket that up? Why can't we slice and dice that in some way to give value back to the client? Something more than just being good lawyers. So we did a bunch of this, and we realized we could write a new job to be, or I did, because again, I didn't show them this, but we could write a new journey for this client, specifically procurement. And I came up with this. And I'm going to go through this. Everyone likes to read ahead when I put a slide, so I'll let you guys do that. And I'm going to break this down and show you how we sort of came about doing this. So the new job statement is our insurance defense solution helps insurance company procurement professionals who want defensible and value-added purchases by enabling metrics, matter portfolio forecasting, and eliminating blown budgets and in-house counsel complaints. Okay, a lot of words there. This, by the way, is not a marketing campaign. This is not an advertisement. This was how we were going to go to the client talking about what we can do for them. So let's go with the first one, our insurance defense solution. Instead of talking about just our exceptional lawyers and all of our experience, we talked about how we redesigned the firm to ingest the business of insurance companies and do business on their terms. They've got a lot of specific demands, outside counsel guidelines. Insurance companies can be very persnickety and picky about how they do business. So we redesigned internal workflows and personnel and all that so that the customer journey of insurance companies was much smoother. And we packaged that together and we called it a solution because it was a solution, not just legal services. The customer I already talked about. We focused, for this example, just on procurement because, again, they're the gatekeeper. They're the bouncer at the door. We had to get past them. Well, I asked my client, what do they want? What is the job to be done of procurement people? No, it's not to make your life miserable. No, it's not to say no. They actually want to say yes. But in order to say yes to buying you, they've got to feel, move on to the next one, like their decision is defensible. Because they're accountable to someone inside the insurance company for the decisions and buy decisions they make. So let's help them feel like they made a smart choice by also adding on value services, right? So what were those value-added services? Well, we looked at all that data, and I pulled all the knowledge out of all the heads who have worked for this insurance company over 10 years and figured out that we could score matters on the front end as they come in the door. We could have a light triage moment, and we could actually bucket their matters in 3 buckets. And we designed a workflow and experience for each one of those, and we priced those differently. And obviously, the low-risk bucket was dirt cheap. And the third one was, a little bit more, quote-unquote, expensive. But we sliced and diced this, and then we shared that information regardless of if we won their business or not. We said, this is 10 years, so not even forward-looking. Here, just take 10 years worth of knowledge. We think you might be able to do something with this, hopefully with us, but not with us, then someone else. And that really led to sort of not blowing budgets on matters and all that, and really sort of providing good quality counsel with these value-added services, which would eliminate complaints. So what happened? Well, of course, if I tell you the story, they won their business, right? They got their business back because when they presented us to procurement, they were speaking to that person. They were speaking to that human being. And they were basically saying, going back to how I opened this, we're going to make it easy for you to do business with us. So the table stakes of good lawyering, of course, a sea of sameness out there for good lawyering. Yes, we know you, we've got some competitive advantage. But we're going to make it really easy for you to do business with us. Your experience is going to be more positive than negative. And they bid on it, and they were able to get this work back and grow it. So I was very proud of that, but I even got more proud because my client, the law firm client, took that smartly to their other insurance company clients. And I was invited, unconnected with this. Insurance companies have their outside counsel, and some do it in different ways. But this one insurance company brings all their outside counsel in every year. They share best practices and all that kind of stuff. And I happened to be there giving a talk, and my client was in the crowd. And the lead claims counsel was up there and called my client up on stage and actually gave her an award for the most innovative, value-added client service of the year. So I got to sit there and watch my client be giving an award from an insurance company for taking this model and carrying it forward. So it's been immensely powerful for them. All right, so I normally have you guys all take out a piece of paper and actually draw your customers. So you can thank me that I'm not going to do that today. But in the supplemental materials in the app, there's a complete facilitator's guide for how to do this. Complete. And I give you a job canvas, and this is a tool that you can use. It prompts you for certain things, and it's got the client job statement in the bottom left-hand side. Just print it out and just work through it at your own pace. I also give you this, a value canvas. Okay, some people like this more, it seems more simple. And it talks about the customer's job and the gains and the pains and the gain creators and pain relievers of your services. And you'll see in those supplemental materials, I give you trigger questions for each one of these quadrants. I don't care if you even ever pull these canvases out. Don't if you don't want to, but read those questions. I guarantee when you read those trigger questions, you will have epiphanies, challenges to yourself. You'll nod your head and say, thank God I can answer positively to that one. All those questions are meant to surface whether or not you're easy to do business with and how do your clients actually experience your services, right? And then you can start to tinker and work within your businesses to make and design a better, more satisfying client journey. And I guarantee if you do that, even small steps, your internal experience, your personal experience will be positively impacted as well as that of your clients. Thank you very much.